So thank you all once again for joining our third workshop of WeGO Smart City Champions Phase 2, Design Thinking, Process, and Methodology. My name is Anna Kwak, Program Officer of WeGO. In the past 2 weeks, we had workshops for mentorship and guidelines and from the experts, so you received your feedback from them. And we also learned about the first-hand experience from youth CEOs. And today we are going to invite you all champions to get extra engaged to learn about design thinking methodology and to ideate together as a team. The purpose of today's workshop is to provide you with cognitive understanding of what design thinking is, why we need it, what makes it an effective tool to solve problems. And also we are going to provide you with group activities so you can apply what you have just learned today into practice. We have 3 main sessions today. I will go into details of each session later and share guidelines with you so you can just find it easier to follow along. And before the sessions, we are going to quickly take group photos. And after the session, we are going to close with some comments and feedback from our speaker and facilitators. And in session 1, Design Thinking Mindset and Skill Set for Innovation, we will learn about conceptual understanding of design thinking. It's going to be about a 40-minute lecture. We are going to focus on ideation. It'll be interactive, but please be prepared to take some notes and get ready to engage when some questions are asked or when we have the poll open for you. And in session 2, we are going to put what we have learned into practice. So to do so, we will randomly assign you to breakout rooms. We will have 3 of them. Each breakout room will have one theme question, like how might we question, and you are going to discuss centered around that question. And once you enter the room, a link to Miro board will be shared with you. If you still haven't signed up, that's okay. The process is really quick and easy. Everyone do have to sign up for Miro. And once you click the link after you signed up, you'll be able to start editing the board together. It's a really intuitive platform, so once you see it, you'll be able to engage like very soon. Okay, then we are going to talk about this how might we question like a little more in detail later. So please don't worry about that. And each facilitator will also guide you through the breakout session. So get ready for that. And in our last session, we are going to invite our student representative to share your screen of the Miro board that you have created together with the team and give a brief summary of what was discussed, what's your main takeaways, and so on. And after that, we are going to hear some comments and feedback from our speaker and facilitators on how well the discussion went and how we can also improve in the future. Okay, it's photo time now. I want all of you, if you still haven't already, we want everyone to have your camera on throughout the workshop. So please don't turn it off. Just have it on the whole time, not just for the photo, throughout the course. So if I can have Ming Gu Kang or so Huan Liu, Oh Yun Zhang, if you could all turn on your camera, that'd be great. We will quickly take about 2 screenshots. Give us your best smile. Let me count, yes, on count of 3, let's take one together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, just one more. 3, 2, 1, smile. Great. Hope you all took some screenshots as well. It's a memorable time. All right, thank you all so much for your cooperation. So now let's begin our first session, Design Thinking Mindset and Skill Set for Innovation. Today, we had the honor to invite our speaker, Dr. Han, Vice President and Head of SAP App House Asia. SAP House Asia helps companies become a sustainable, intelligent enterprise by leveraging SAP's business technology platform. Dr. Han established the App House organization in Korea in 2015 and built the creative workspace in 2016. And for the past 8 students at KAIST College of Business, and he also coaches social entrepreneurs to navigate the domains of design, business, and technology to build a scalable company. Dr. Han, we truly appreciate your contribution helping us develop today's program for the past month. You have always provided like really sharp and constructive feedback, and thank you so much. And we are so excited to learn more about design thinking from you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you again for inviting me and my team to join this session with you. It's always a pleasure to spend time with students who are very interested in learning and innovating for their future. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so yeah, as Anna introduced, I'm working in industry, in the enterprise software industry, a company called SAP, and I'm also teaching at a business school. And for today's topic, well, we have about 40 minutes together, which is not a lot of time. And so for today, rather than trying to, take a semester's worth of content and distilling in such a short period of time, what I decided to do is design a talk that will be helpful for you to gain some useful insights that you can use right away, and also to inspire you to want to learn more. Okay, so with that, let me go and start with the question why. Why is it important for us to learn this? And why is this helpful for you? Well, I want to show you this picture. In this picture, you see a scene of wonderful nature. Now, this was something that people, you, me, and others who have gone before us, we did not make this. Of course, nature came before us. Some believe nature was made by God, others it just happened. But regardless, we did not make nature. But everything else in this world that you see, touch, use, enjoy was made by people. And the question is, how is that done? And how is that done well? How can I, as a young student, learn the right mindset and the skill sets that will help me create things for the future, whether it's for my work or for my personal life? That's what I am looking to address today, and that's why I think this is an important topic. Now, before moving forward, I want to launch a quick poll. It's just one simple question. I'd like all of you to answer this right away. And the question is, am I a creative person? Yes or no? So go ahead and answer this now. Just go ahead. This is anonymous, so no one knows who you are. Just go ahead and answer. Am I a creative person? Okay. 5 more seconds. Please go ahead and answer this question. Okay, we've had 30 respondents, so I'm not sure if that's everyone. Oh, okay, some more are coming in, so I'll give you a few more seconds. Okay, I'll just go ahead and close the poll now and share the results. Okay, so 36 people responded. 81% said yes, and 19% said no. Now, first of all, I'm glad to see that 80% of you felt like I'm a creative person, and that's great, because you indeed are a creative person with enormous creative potential. And for those of you who said no, it's understandable. I felt the same way. I felt for most of my life growing up, I am not a creative person, but I learned that I am and that I can be creative in the things that I do. And so that's what I want to also convince you of today as well. Okay. So because you're students, I'm just going to share a little bit about my background and tell some stories that I think are relevant. So I grew up in the US. I went to a school called Georgetown University for my undergrads because I wanted to be a diplomat. And they had the School of Foreign Service there that trains diplomats. Now, ironically enough, I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. So after college, I moved to Silicon Valley, and I worked there for a number of years, and then I went back to school for my master's and PhD in engineering. So a very different change of course. And during that time, I learned something called design thinking through certain professors who had just established something called the Stanford D School. And this was really impactful. And a large part of what I'm sharing with you today was from that experience. Now, I've applied a lot of this in my work. And I work at a company called SAP, which is an enterprise software company. And by the way, we're celebrating our 50th year this year as a company. And this is a picture of my team that we took during our 5th anniversary a couple of years ago. We use this way of working as part of our work. And it's really become part of our culture. And we're, by the way, a global team that has people in 3 continents, in North America, Europe, and in Asia. And then lastly, I teach this as well for a full semester at KAIST Business School. So it gives you an understanding of where I'm coming from as you listen to what I'm about to share with you. Okay, now let's dive into the content. I titled this The Mindset and Skill Set for Innovation. And I want to just give you a high-level view before I get into the details. For the mindset, I'm talking about beliefs, what you believe, and I'm talking about biases. And believe me, we all have biases. Some of which we're aware of, some which we're not. And we certainly also have blind spots. And by definition, these are things that we are not aware of. And then for skill set, these are things that we can learn to help us do the work of innovation better. And one of the important things that I learned is that there's a process to innovation, and that's encapsulated by the design thinking process. And there are certain methods and, in fact, tools that we can learn as we go through this process together as a team. So let's go through very quickly this content. Our thoughts matter. So beliefs, and in particular, dysfunctional beliefs, are part of our lives. We grew up believing certain things that are simply not true. There was research done by a professor, Carol Dweck, at Stanford, and she published this research in a book called Mindset that was published a few years back. In fact, when I was a PhD student, she was in the process of doing this research. And she defined something called a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And in the fixed mindset, you have certain beliefs. And some examples are written here. Failure is the limit of my ability. So when I fail and experience failure of some kind, I think to myself, oh, that's all I can do. That's the extent of my abilities. And because of that, I avoid things that are hard. I avoid challenges. I kind of stick to what I know, and things like that. These are thoughts that sometimes run through our minds, whether we are aware or not. And they influence how we look at ourselves and the world. Now, on the other hand, you have a growth mindset, which says things like, failure is an opportunity for me to grow. And so I'm not afraid to take on something that's really challenging, something that I know I'm not good at right now, because that's an opportunity. I learn from feedback, whether it's feedback from my own failures or feedback that other people tell me. Sometimes it could be very constructive. It can be a little bit of a constructive criticism, but I welcome that. When other people succeed, I'm inspired by them, and I want to learn from them, and so on and so forth. These are things that are running through our minds that are extremely influential, extremely influential. And I would like us to simply be aware that this is going on and how much beliefs matter, and in particular, how much dysfunctional beliefs may be hindering us and how we need to let them go. Next are biases. And I would further describe them as, as cognitive biases. And there's one work that was done by the World Economic Forum. They published this online about 6 months ago. And so you can find it online. I just want to share with you this with you here about different biases, cognitive biases that we have. I'm not going to go through each of them now. It would take too much time. But I studied this in my own doctoral work, and this was done by research by many people, and I found it to be so true, and I found it to really align with my own personal experiences. So, for example, anchoring is the first one. So the bias of anchoring is really relevant here with what you're about to do as a team when you start to ideate. Now, what ideating means is coming up with lots of ideas for a particular problem. Pardon me. Now, because of this bias known as anchoring, the method we use for ideation is as follows. First, we come together, and then we're going to ideate independently in what is known as silent brainstorming. So your facilitator will lead you in doing this. I'm going to ideate about a solution for a particular problem on my own first, maybe writing it down on Post-its, and others on my team will do so as well. And then we're going to share this later. The reason for that is, if we were to do this together openly and verbally, then what happens is the first idea that's verbalized becomes an anchor. Particularly if it comes from someone that I believe is an authority, someone I think is maybe smarter than me. And if he or she says, "Oh, I think this is a great idea for, that problem," once I hear that, I'm going to be anchored on that. So we want to avoid that kind of cognitive bias. Okay, so again, this collection that was nicely summarized here is available online. Just Google World Economic Forum biases. Okay, and then lastly, blind spots. I would characterize this as the unknown unknowns. And we all have blind spots. Now, when we drive, and perhaps some of you are already driving, we have the side view mirror, right? Well, the side view mirror doesn't show you everything. There's a spot behind you that you don't see, and we call that the blind spot. Well, we have that as well. We all have blind spots. Something we don't know, and in fact, we don't even know that we don't know them. And this is, of course, natural because we're humans. Yeah, we have to be aware of this very important reality as we work together for creating things, particularly in the context of teams. Okay, so we have these dysfunctional beliefs, these cognitive biases, and these blind spots. So how do we get rid of them? How do we handle this reality? Well, we have to release the beliefs, remove the biases, and to reduce the blind spots. And the only way we can do this is really through learning. Learning such as what you're doing now. And it starts with awareness, then it goes into practice, and so forth. So I think that a session like today is a very helpful step towards that. Okay, now let me shift the focus now from what happens within our own brains, in the mindset, to more of a process discussion. What are the skills that we need to learn as well? Process guides our actions, and in doing innovation, there's a certain process, particularly for human-centered innovation, that is really helpful, and we call this design thinking. One important element of this process is to differentiate between what is the problem space and the solution space. And what do we mean by the problem? Well, you always want to start with the right problem. And the definition of what is a right problem is as follows. It's a real problem, and real from the perspective of the people we're trying to help. It's a valuable problem, meaning if we solve this problem, it will create a lot of value. And it's an inspiring problem, meaning that we, as people who are trying to solve this, we're inspired to solve this. Okay, we want to do this. And then how do you create the right solution? What's the definition? The solution has to be desirable, again, by the people that we're trying to help. It has to be viable, meaning that it has to make economic sense. If I'm solving a problem that solves, let's say it's a $10 problem, but I'm spending $100 to solve it, that's not very viable. And then feasible is that it is doable. Technically, it can be done. Okay, we can actually do it. Yeah, so the right solution contains all of these three elements, and the right problem has these three elements as well. And as far as the process, and we talked about the right problem. Well, how do you find and define the right problem? Well, we want to start with empathizing, and empathizing the people, again, that we're trying to help. And you can do this by three broad approaches. First is to observe the people we're trying to help in their natural environment. Second is to interview them, which is really about hearing their experiences and understanding from their experiences. And thirdly is to immerse. In other words, to directly experience what those people are experiencing. So through these broad approaches of observation, interviews, and immersion, you want to triangulate what you learn and to discover the real problem that these people have that you want to help, and to understand that, wow, if I can solve this, or if we can solve this, it will create a lot of value for them. And then lastly, that, hey, let's really do this as a team. Yeah, let's do this. Let's help them. Yeah, that would be empathizing. And I want to share with you how this is being used by people in the workplace, in industry. And I want to share with you a story that I heard while I was a student. And the story comes from a person by the name of Tom Kelly. He works at a company called IDEO. It's a design consulting firm. And a client came to them, asking them to design a new toothbrush for children. And so perhaps all of you guys, because of your age, you may be using toothbrushes that don't look like this. I, in fact, when I was your age, or when I was younger, in fact, when I was a child, I grew up using toothbrushes that look like this. But I think most of you are more familiar with toothbrushes that look like this. it has these squishy handles, and it's easy to grip. So the question then becomes, well, how did this happen? Who designed this? Who came up with this? Who created this? This type of toothbrush that now seems to be so prevalent. Well, this company called Oral-B came to the company called IDEO, and IDEO said, sure, we'll help you design a new kid's toothbrush, and we're going to use our process, the kind of process I just described to you, this process to understand and empathize with our customers, the children, and to find what they really need. And so here is the story. I'd like you to hear directly from Tom Kelly. It's a 3-minute video clip, very short, but listen for the story of how they did this.
About 10 years ago, we got approached by one of the largest oral healthcare companies in America, a company you've probably heard of called Oral-B. And they said, look, we'd like a new kid's toothbrush because ours is starting to get commoditized. It looks like a lot of kids' toothbrushes out there, and you can't have that. We want to be special, right? So we say, okay, we'll do this. We want to go out in the field and do some field research. And they're kind of not sure about that. Like, it's not rocket science. We're talking about kids brushing their teeth. How hard could that be, right? They would really like us to stop fooling around and start designing, right? But we want to go through this process, this observation process, because we think almost always you can spot opportunities. And so we go out, and we're on like the first day of observations, and we make a small discovery. The small discovery we make is that every kid's toothbrush in the history of the world has had the same implicit assumption. It's a logical assumption, it just isn't exactly right, which is the assumption always was parents have big hands, kids have small hands, and so when you want to make the kids' version, make it like the parents' brush, only smaller and skinnier. Perfectly logical until you go out in the field, until you actually watch humans, little tiny humans, brushing their teeth. And what you notice right away, you get a 5-year-old boy brushing his teeth, he's not holding his toothbrush in his fingertips the way mom and dad do, he's fisting it. He's holding it like this because he doesn't have the dexterity, he doesn't have the fine motor controls that his parents have, and so he's got to hold it like this. In fact, the other thing he does is he holds the brush too far up very frequently, and so he's punching himself in the face as he's trying to brush his teeth, and we solved that problem too. But the main thing was, came back in the field and said, uh-oh, kids don't need little skinny toothbrushes, kids need big fat toothbrushes, right? Let's make them big fat squishy toothbrushes. And you may have noticed, now every toothbrush company in the world makes these, but our client reports that after we made that little tiny discovery, out in the field, sitting in a bathroom watching a 5-year-old boy brush his teeth, they had the best-selling kids' toothbrush in the world for 18 months. So when you think about power, when you think about, credibility, if you could go out in the field and do that observation and come up with that finding, and your company, your organization was the best in its field for 18 months afterwards, would that be worth it? I think that would be worth it. And so that's this message about think like a traveler, be an anthropologist, use your powers of observation, have that part of your brain turned up as high as you can all along.
Okay, wow. So they were able to create the best-selling toothbrush, and they were able to create all that success. But how were they able to do that? Because they created this wonderful new design for a toothbrush for kids that wasn't small and skinny, but rather big and fat, easy to grip and so forth. Wonderful. But how were they able to create that? Because they got this insight from understanding the users, the children. But how are they able to get that insight? Because of the process, this process of empathizing that I just described to you. Yeah. So that is an example, a real life example of how powerful this approach can be in this process. Next, I want to talk about rapid prototyping. And this is something that you, in working in teams, can really benefit from. So when you do this, we talked before about ideating. When you first come together to solve a problem, you want to use certain techniques of ideation, like the silent brainstorming to begin, so that we don't anchor each other's ideas. Yeah. But there are other methods too, like instead of brainstorming, there's brain writing, there's body storming, all of these different ways. The important thing here is we want to focus on creating lots of ideas. And we say quantity over quality in the beginning, in the early stages. Yeah. And then for prototype, what this means is simply to visualize your idea. Basically taking this abstract idea from your head and introducing it to the world, whether through a simple drawing or perhaps just putting together a simple model with some very cheap materials to help explain your idea to others. And lastly, we want to take that prototype and to test it with the actual users, the people we're trying to help. And at this point, it's not about showing them an early version of the solution just yet. It's just about, again, visualizing and concretizing my ideas and learning from the users about how I'm doing up to that point. A good example that I learned when I was a student came from this challenge that this company called IDEO did for ABC Nightline. And by the way, IDEO is the same company that Tom Kelly worked, the person who shared the toothbrush story. Yeah. So this is a long time ago, perhaps even before some of you were born or when you were little. So I remember seeing this and really being amazed at how these people could work with each other so well and so quickly. So I'm not going to show you the video here because it's much longer. I'm just going to walk you through some of the key highlights. So this team at IDEO were given 5 days, just 1 week, to reimagine the traditional shopping cart. And this is in the US. So if you go to a supermarket in the US, they all have these, shopping carts made out of steel that look like this, more or less like this. And they were given the challenge to create a better one. Okay? And so what they did was they came together as a diverse team, people of all different types of backgrounds, and they went out to shopping centers and grocery stores and started to interview people and to learn and to empathize with the people who are going to be using the shopping cart. They came back and they shared what they learned with each other to really understand what the real problems were. And then once they had a sense of what the real problem was, they ideated and they quickly prototyped, again, the whole rapid prototyping process, to come up with some solution concepts that they developed through iteration and went through multiple very rapid iterations of like the ones that you're seeing here. And then at the end of this, I'm going to now show you what they created. So remember, this is the old one, or the traditional one, and here's what they created at the end of 5 days. So very different type of shopping cart from its very design, from its material, from functionality. By the way, this blue part where this cup is, that's where you can seat a small child much more safely than before. Yeah, because there were actually many instances of injuries, especially for small children, with those traditional shopping carts. Anyway, what I want to really highlight here is they followed a certain process that enabled them to work together so quickly and so effectively to come up with one solution, and it only took 5 days. Okay, And that's something that all of you guys can also adopt and experience as well. A lot of this was captured in an article, and this dates back to 2004, so it's a long time ago. In this Business Week magazine article, and the title of this was called "The Power of Design." And it was really about describing this whole process of design and what later became known as design thinking. The person seated there, by the way, is David Kelly. He is Tom Kelly's older brother, and David Kelly is one of the co-founders of the company IDEO. He is also the co-founder of the Stanford B School, and he's a full tenured professor at Stanford. And in fact, what's interesting is that he's the only tenured professor at Stanford without a PhD. Amazing. I don't know of any other person who is a tenured professor without a PhD. And it really goes to show how the university really acknowledges his contributions. Okay, so that was a very quick conceptual overview of design thinking, both from a mindset perspective and from a skill set perspective. And what we want to do now is to prepare you to go into these sessions where you're going to be ideating as a team. Now, ideation is one important part of the process that I just described to you. And ideating starts with this "how might we" question. And those questions will be introduced to you shortly. But these questions are rooted in the definition of the problem that we're trying to solve. And so it presupposes that we have defined the right problem. Now, for this "how might we" question, which already has been written and defined, and so you guys can just start ideating. What I'm asking you to do is, when you get together as a team, and these teams will be randomly chosen, when you get together, keep in mind that you want to ideate first on your own, okay, without verbalizing, just on your own. And the facilitators are going to walk you through this process and explain step by step what to do. But when you think on your own, keep in mind that the first few ideas that are going to come to you are going to be the most mild ideas, and that's natural. And that's natural because they're the ideas that seem the most sensible to you, the most likely to work, and so forth. And that's good. So go ahead and capture those ideas as well. But in addition, don't stop there. In addition, be wild as well. Just let your imagination go and do not judge your own ideas. Okay? Allow yourself the freedom to just let ideas just pop into your head and just go ahead and write those things down. Okay? We don't want to judge our own ideas at this point, much less judge other people's ideas. Okay? So this is what we mean by go from mild to wild. So keep that in mind, that you will do this for yourself. Mild to wild. Okay? Okay, great. At this point, I think I have a few more minutes with my budgeted time. So I want to pause here and ask, what questions do you have about anything that's been shared so far? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the full screen. This gallery view. Okay, great. Okay, it's wonderful to see so many of you. Okay, I talked about empathy, right? Yeah, it really starts with empathy. Oh, we have a question. Jason?
Hi, Mr. Han. Thank you for such an insightful lecture. It's actually really interesting. I'm wondering, how do you communicate this? How do you communicate the value of this process to clients? Because particularly in Asia, we find that clients tend to skip this process of researching, background research, and understanding the market and observation. They're not willing to pay for this process. So I'm wondering whether you share the same experience, and how did you overcome, or how do you convince them to spend that extra bit of cash, or do you hide it somewhere else in your fees?
Right. To spend the necessary time and budget to make sure that you're working on the right problem, right? Well, this is not just an issue in Asia, as Tom Kelly shared in that story, and that's part of the reason why I love that story. That company, Oral-B, also did not want IDEO to fool around, going into the field, looking at kids. They said, oh, you guys are brilliant designers. Please work on the product now. So it's very important to insist on that process. Now, whether you follow this process or a different, let me rephrase. Everyone follows a certain process. So it's important to ask the question, okay, if you do not want this process, what is the process that you are using for this work? And if that process is, okay, we have this problem that someone within the company, perhaps the boss, defined, and we start working on it. So if you can, they're probably not even aware. So if you can ask them, please share with me sort of the step-by-step how you're doing this, and then you start to draw it out for them, maybe visualize it for them, then they're going to realize, oh, wait, that is a process. And then once you help them to understand what they're doing can be represented in a process, then now the question becomes, what is a better process and why?
But this is the way you contextualize that is within an existing organization. But for an external organization, how do you convince them of the value that it brings when they're not willing to afford the extra time?
Well, what I'm saying is, this so-called external organization, you can ask them, so how would you like to do this? Like, what do you think is the right process? What I'm emphasizing here is that not being aware of a process doesn't mean that there's no process. There is a process. So help the client to understand what process they're using. And literally just kind of draw it out in a flow, and which is probably the simplest way for them to understand. And then you might say, well, look, what you're doing here is you're starting with a lot of assumptions about what's the right problem. Now, you may be right, but what is the cost of being wrong about these assumptions? Oh, they're huge. If we find out later that we created a solution but for the wrong problem, you have wasted so much time and so much money. Can you afford that, Mr. Client? So rather than going by those assumptions, why not validate these assumptions? Why not quickly meet with users, empathize with them? We can observe them in their natural environment. We can hear about their experiences. We can even try to experience what their experiences for themselves to make sure that we're defining the problem correctly. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
that's the approach that I would take.
Thanks.
Other questions?
We do have one question in the chat room. It's from, yes, Alamin. He says, is rapid prototyping or rush approach to design always going to lead to results within a short time frame? And maybe a little light as regards your personal experience. Is it also more costly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the benefit of rapid prototyping is really learning. It's really learning. Think of it this way. Let's say you're omniscient. So you know everything there is to know. Then when you're solving a problem, it's quite easy, right? I mean, after all, you know everything. So if someone comes to you with a problem, boom, you know the best solution. Okay. Unfortunately, none of us are omniscient. We don't know all that we need to know to solve a particular problem. And in fact, sometimes we don't even know what we don't even know. Again, the blind spots. So our meta problem is often we need to learn things very fast and effectively to do this work of innovation. And the rapid prototyping is really intended to help us with that. So when I have an idea, I want to quickly visualize it, concretize it, whether in a drawing or a simple model, using cheap materials, kind of bring it together and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And when I show that to others, it's easier for the others to understand what I mean. Because if I just describe everything with words alone, it can be hard to understand. And then what I'm able to get back is better feedback about my ideas. Okay. And with that feedback, I learn and I iterate again and improve on my solution. Know that it's always going to be an iterative process, starting from a very low fidelity solution and continuously iterating to a higher fidelity solution. And this approach, this iterative approach of creating and then learning, or creative testing and then learning, is in fact going to help me save time and help me to avoid expensive failures. If I do this in one shot, spend a lot of time making this wonderful solution, and at the very end, show the customer, what do you think? And then, only then I learned, oh my gosh, I was wrong about certain things. The customer doesn't need this, the customer needs that, or whatever it may be. Then I have spent all of that time and money up to that point, and it's all a waste. Whereas I could have learned that much earlier with a much low fidelity prototype. And say, oh, we're on the wrong track. Okay, throw that away, start over. But at that point, I didn't spend that much time or money, so it's a cheap failure. And from that, I can learn a lot and benefit from. Okay, so Alamin, good question. I hope that helped you to understand that. Okay, maybe one more question if there's time. Okay, well then, if not, I think we are right on time, so we can move to the next session. And so for that, let me hand it back to Anna.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Han. Really, design thinking is more powerful than I have ever imagined it to be. And I believe all the notes that we took today will really help us as we try to apply them in the real life circumstances. So now let us, yes. I hope yes, from my side, it's a little lagging, but I'm sure your side, you will have the full screen of us and all activities. Before we begin, I would like to introduce today's breakout session facilitators with you. So first, in the first breakout room, we have Miss Jane. Miss Jane, she enjoys combining technology with design to enhance user experience, and she graduated from Rothschild Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in industrial and product design. She says meeting individuals from diverse backgrounds inspire her to widen her perspective. Next, we have Sunny Kim. She will be leading our second breakout room. Ms. Sunny, she works, her work focuses on innovation projects and collaborating with business customers and colleagues from diverse backgrounds. She helps customers find their problems by designing and facilitating design thinking workshops. And for our breakout room 3, we have Ms. Jeannie Lee. Ms. Jeannie acquired an interest in sustainability after reading an article showing the interrelatedness of greenhouse gases and electricity usage of web pages. She graduated from Songsin Women's University with a major in service design engineering. And I believe our champions today are really in good hands. Thank you, Jane, Sunny, and Jeannie, and we look forward to joining your group really soon. Before we begin, I would also like to mention what questions you will be dealing with. In the first breakout room, we are going to focus on how might we use the metaverse to decrease the feeling of depression among youth. And the second breakout room will explore how might we use the metaverse to improve the quality of college education. And lastly, in our third breakout room, you will be ideating on how might we use the metaverse to reduce the prejudice against people with physical disabilities. As you know, our session for the breakout room will be 40 minutes, and we will be assigning you very randomly. You'll be in the group like once we launch it. And so, yeah, okay, let's begin our breakout session. Please click join if any box pops up on your screen, okay? All right, we'll see you soon.
Our problem statement is how might we use the metaverse to improve the quality of college education? So we're going to focus on this topic. So please write down your names in any color. If you see your favorite color, you can put your name in the first area with the border. So please go ahead. So this color you write your name will be your color for the rest of the session. Please write your name here. I now see Jason, Yogyang, So time's up. We have Taehyun here. Is it okay to run with the 3 members? Do you need some help? to access this link. I see over 20 members in our Zoom area, but in Discord, we only can see 3 members here. So if that is okay, let me move on the next step. So next step is generating ideas. In regular ideation sessions, we should write as many ideas as possible, but in this session, in the given time limit, so let's put up about 3 ideas next to your name. So in the topic of how might we use the metaverse to improve the quality of college education, let's write the 3 ideas. But I think we have not a lot of members, so you can add as you can over 3 ideas. I think that would be fine. So I'll give you 7 minutes for brainstorming session.
Yes, I also see a couple of other members from other teams. For example, CDUT Warriors. I don't think anyone filled out their names, so maybe you can also put your names there.
Jason, Yeokyung, and Jaehyun, since we don't have any members, you can generate your ideas more. So feel free to add your ideas. We have 1 more minute. So I see lots of great ideas here. So next step is sharing out. So I'll give you 5 minutes for each person. So please share your ideas. Jason, can you share your ideas?
Hi, Sunny. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So starting with cultural exposure, so it allows us to to share the same physical, same simulated space with someone across the pond from a different cultural background. So it will allow in the same space for them to bring artifacts of their culture and share it within the digital space through simulation. So you can model things um, um, the type of corn they have in Cusco compared to type of food that you have in your local supermarket. And through that understanding of this different cultural background, through the possibility of bringing different artifacts into digital space by modeling it is a better way of understanding the way how the other people live on the other side of the world. So it's a cultural exposure within the metaverse. Emotional support, I think, is really important. And being able to find creating a safe space for those who are growing up. You might not find the people that are in tune with you necessarily, but through creating these safe spaces, potentially you can find people who are able to share similar experiences. So creating a safe space in the metaverse is very important for me. Finding access to new information. So this is about knowledge sharing. So for me to find somewhere about a lecture, I can post it And then we can share the experience of being in this lecture together and have open discussions around the table, digital table. It's about finding access to information and learning through simulation practice. So this is very similar to vocational education. So things like for a mechanic who's learning how to fix a car, you're now in the metaverse being able to simulate the components of a car and then to be able to put it together without leaving your room. And for those who are able to access this, they don't have to travel distant to go to a workshop or a specific vocational education institution to learn those kind of skill sets. So I think that's a huge benefit of the metaverse. Spatial learning is something that is the obvious for me as an architect. It's very difficult a lot of times for people to understand how to read plans, how to read the drawings. By having the simulator, by having the models available on the metaverse, students can learn directly from what the teacher mean about the quality of space and understanding the concept of space rather than through another form of representation like 2D or through explaining it verbally. Vocational education I explained already, and travel the world to other heritage sites. So understanding places, the significance of certain places like the Stonehenge, you don't have to travel there anymore. It can be simulated, that experience, and it can be a very much a more interactive experience. And then I learn how to cook. I mean, it'll be amazing to simulate how how to cook without burning your fingers. So I think that's pretty cool if we can make that happen. That's it.
Right, thanks, Jason, for sharing your great ideas. Then let's move on to Yogyung's idea. I'll give you 5 minutes to share. Please share your ideas.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, good morning, everyone. About my ideas, I think the most featuring characteristic of metaverse is that we can go beyond physical limitations. You can, if you have access to internet and some screens, you can participate in any educational activities beyond physical limitations. And also, I think the many-to-many communication is one of the perks of metaverse because there's no, actually there are some metaverse platforms that has some limitations in participants numbers, but I think it's more, it's better than a physical communication when it comes to many-to-many communications. Also, I think the multicultural networking is one of the greatest things we can achieve from internet, actually. But in metaverse, it would be more, it can be more developed because actually metaverse, we focus on more virtual worlds. So maybe networking is will be better in metaverse than our existing internet world. And also, I think immersive experience through 3D technologies and VR technologies would be great because actually we live in 3D world. So metaverse 3D virtual world would be better than just a flat screen. And also, I think creative activities based on infinite space could be one of the perks because we can make something or create some informations or objects or any kind of creations on metaverse and share it to everyone as a source of data. So yes, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Yogyung, for sharing your ideas. It was great to hear that. And Jaehyun, can you share your ideas as well? I'll give you
Okay,
5 minutes.
okay, hello. This is Jaehyun. And I actually think about the big three things. The first thing is metaverse allows spatial freedom because metaverse can offer unlimited space in terms of capacity and even in terms of distance. We can have students or professors from any global countries, and we can gather in the space in metaverse. So yeah, that is the first thing. And second thing is action freedom. And this is about the actions students and professors can do in the space because metaverse is based on the digital resources. So the space can offer any imaginary actions from students and professors. So we can do any experiments in the space. Yeah, and the third thing is time freedom, and this is about more global participation because metaverse we can access the space on metaverse just by any devices and any time zone. So we can have we can even just we don't have to take bus or metro or cars to take the classes because yeah, any digital devices is only we have to access to class. And yeah, those are the basically the main ideas for metaverse and university education. And one more thing is active participation. On metaverse, as I experienced by metaverse like Zoom or other Zepeto like applications, the avatars of metaverse is kind of horizontal in terms of outer design or size or any types of avatars. So we participants basically have similar outfits. So you don't have to be fear about speak out loud and more easy to speak or share ideas in the environmental horizontal characters. Yeah. So that's all I have for ideas. Thank you.
Great, thanks for sharing. So we have shared all of our ideas. So I see Jason's visualizing his ideas here. Is it? I don't know if this is Jason or not. Chan?
Oh, hi.
Yeah. So after sharing out our ideas, let's move to the right area here.
Sunny,
So
I'm really
see
sorry.
the cluster.
Sunny, I'm really sorry. I have to leave, unfortunately.
Oh, all right, all right.
Okay, thank you very
Thanks
much for thank you.
for joining.
Bye.
Thank you. So on the right side area, we have clusters and titles. So we're gonna move the ideas on the right side together, every ideas, not only yours. So clustering itself is basically grouping similar or related ideas together to visualize and grouping all the ideas and see easier. So let's move these clusters together. You can discuss as well. So feel free to move any ideas on the left side. Let's start. Give you 8 minutes to cluster and discuss freely. So like this, moving the ideas and naming the card title here. I'm not so sure who drew this illustrations here. This ones. If this pictures or illustration helps to explain the ideas, you can move as well. And if the cluster itself is too big, you can separate into the two groups so that you can easily see the difference between ideas. For example, here in physical area, you may separate into simulation and physical topic. That would work.
Sunny, I also wanted to just inform you that we have 7 minutes till the breakout room closes, just to let you know. Great.
And also, for example, in communication and network cluster, you may separate into cultural topic and like communication and interaction topic, I guess. We have 1 more minute. So time's up. So thanks for having the great clustering. I see very intuitive clusters here. So we're gonna have the voting session. So before starting the voting session, as Chris mentioned in the lecture, the great solution has these three criteria or approach: desirability, viability, and feasibility. So I wrote these details on the bullets, so you can refer to this criteria, and we're gonna vote. Since we're gonna vote 5 ideas for each person. So I'm gonna start with the voting here. So you have to vote on this idea units. So I'll give you 5 votes and 2 minutes. I think everyone ended
Yeah,
voting.
I have finished.
Let's see the results. Is it right? Oh, I see. So we have these two top results. I guess we had only 2 voters, I guess. Right? So you can revisit really in the end later. Actually, you're kind of experiencing and simulating this design thinking workshop, like ideating session, so you can revisit anytime. Okay. So we have emotional support, creating a safe space, and the second top idea is learning through simulation practice, and the third one is beyond physical limitations. So we have these 3 ideas. Actually, we have 4-minute presentation after this session to share our group ideas. So Yeogyang or Jaehyun, do you mind sharing our results for other groups? Jaehyun, could you do that?
You
You can just
mean,
briefly,
yeah,
you can briefly share the ideas and
I-
explain. We had only
okay,
2
you mean
members
now?
to join.
Actually, in the
After this
plenary,
session. Yeah.
Ah,
we have a representative from each breakout room that will present, you know, the
uh-huh,
findings of the discussion. So if yes, either Jaehyun or Yeogyang can present, that'd be great.
okay, yeah, I will share our three results.
Yeah, great. That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
this is really funny. Yeah.
Now we are going to invite our student representatives to give us a short, brief summary of how their discussion was. So if I can invite from the first breakout room, Ms. Jane, could you remind us who the speaker will be?
Sufyan will be our presenter.
Yes, thank you so much. Chupian, did you say? I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If you could share your screen and also remind us what your how my week question was, and please walk us through with the most voted ideas that your group voted for.
Hello, good morning everyone once again. I'm Sufyan Danjumai, and happens to be in the first breakout group. And the problem we try to deliberate on and solve is how might we use the metaverse to decrease the feeling of depression among youth. And first stage we followed was we tried to brainstorm ideas between all the group members. So it was very rigorous. So after that, we have about 10 ideas, which we cluster them together in terms of the same content and all that. After that, we went for voting, and the three ideas, what you've seen here. The virtual extreme sport happens to have the the highest vote. The visual socialize, I don't know what that means, have the second, and the art enjoyment. So this what we thought might help us to solve or reduce depression among youth in the metaverse. Thank you.
Virtual extreme sports, virtual socialize, art enjoyment. Yeah, those are all great ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, now let us hear from our breakout room 2. I heard Mr. Taehyun Lee, you have volunteered to help us. Please go ahead and share your screen and let us know what your discussion was like.
Oh yeah, thank you, Anakak. And actually, room 2, from room 2, I and Yogyong will simultaneously introduce the results. Yogyong, could you share your screen?
Okay. Yes. Hi, I'm Yagyong from Mecca, and actually our team is developing the idea on education on metaverse. So it was really a great experience to share ideas with all these peoples, and it was a really great experience with And actually, we have 17 ideas in total, and have 3 ideas, top 3 ideas selected from the vote. We have 6 clusters: physical limitations, experience, extension, and simulation, and also communication and time limitation and cultural. Actually, our 3 top ideas are these 3. We think creating a safe space in metaverse can be an emotional support for people's participating. And also we thought the learning through simulations beyond the physical limitation is a great idea of the metaverse education. Yes, that's it for the breakout session 2. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I remember your group's how might we question was, how might we use the metaverse to improve the quality of college education? I think those are really great ideas and something that you can really relate to. I'm glad you came up with such innovative ideas with the team. Okay, let's next we have Mr. Kevin. Our groups, I was in breakout room 3, and our how might we question was, how might we use the metaverse to reduce the prejudice against the people with physical disabilities? So Mr. Kevin, would you like to share your screen and share with everyone about our discussion?
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. I just made a quick PPT. Sorry.
It's so impressive you made a PPT within such short period of time. Thank you so much, Kevin.
You can see it from there. Can you see it?
That works, yes.
Right. Yeah, so for us, we just zeroed on how metaverse can reduce prejudice among disabled people or people with disability. So we brainstormed so many ideas, but then we voted 3 main ideas. The first one is how we can experience the feeling of people with disabilities and how about their difficulties and how we can reduce the prejudice. So using metaverse, then we're able to see how really these people with disability, how they struggle through their daily lives. And then from that, then we'll be able to reduce their prejudice. The second one is let people with their disability experience daily life like the normal people. Like we have avatars. We can be able to have maybe engage in sports like just the normal people. The last one was limited travel, and which improves accessibility. Virtual meetings and virtual education. Virtual meetings and virtual education through the metaverse. People with disabilities are able to just experience normal life just that they're like the rest of us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All three groups had different topics, and I'm so glad you enjoyed your brainstorming session. And I believe all these practices will actually help you to reflect the project proposal that you have created. And so perhaps we can have a little bit of evaluation period before the semifinal next week. So thank you.
Sorry, Anna, your mic's muted.
Yes, sorry. Thank
Can
you so much. From when was I muted?
Last two sentences were kind of
Okay,
cut off.
great. Right. Then now we are going to move on with our next. We wanted to have our champions really hear the feedback and comments from the facilitator who helped to facilitate, so that next time when you are trying to brainstorm on your own on different topics, their feedback and suggestions can be really helpful for you. So if I may I have Miss Jane, would you like to share some of your thoughts on the activity today?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I was surprised how highly engaging participants were at 10 a.m. in the morning. And yeah, it was great meeting with these passionate individuals, and hearing their ideas truly inspired me to learn and kind of develop myself as well. And I'm glad that people who participated in the session were able to learn design thinking by first listening to Christopher Hahn's insightful lecture, and second, having a hands-on experience on our design thinking workshop. So yeah, I hope we had a fun time ideating and learned. And yeah, thank you for inviting.
Yes, thank you so much for facilitating today. I'm sure students had a great time writing their ideas and rushing a little bit, but still, that's the fun of it. All right, thank you. Next, can we have Miss Sunny? Would you like to share your group's experience with us?
So it was also a great experience for me to share the design thinking ideation session together. Our team had like kind of small group of people, so we had the deep dive ideation session with 3 or 4 people. I hope the rest of members can also learn from the session as well. And I was also really inspired by great ideas, having the metaverse to improve more higher education. So I collaborated with Young and Jaehan and Jason deeply. So I hope they can revisit the original ideas, so that they can adopt the original ideas more deeply and more detail for the conceptual ideas and also the practical ideas. So I hope you learned and inspired. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad they are already applying it like to the circumstances they have in mind. So I think that's really great. And the breakout room 3, I was in that group, and personally, I also wanted to mention that students can be really bold and write down all the ideas on your post-it or in the real life circumstances, anywhere that you can jot down your ideas. I think I will have a suggestion to the group that was in breakout room 3 to really write down any idea that you have in mind. Don't hesitate. I would say that would have been a suggestion I would have given. So Miss Jenny, would you also like to share some of your thoughts about the breakout room 3?
Okay, it was such a great time to tell you all about how to design think in a very short time, and really thank you all to follow in even though it was very rushed. And I personally think the topic of our team was a little bit difficult, but was surprised about your ideas. So it was really great time, and I hope you all do have a chance to do design thinking later more about it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all facilitators, Jeannie, Jane, Sunny, we really appreciate it. The template looked colorful and really engaging too, like throughout the whole breakout session. I enjoyed it. And now if I can have Dr. Han, would you like to share some of the feedback that you may have for all of us?
Sure. So I had a chance to kind of pop into the rooms kind of randomly, and also noticed all the things that have been shared. Just maybe just a few quick comments from me. One is, as I mentioned, when you ideate, and by the way, you had the experience of just doing the ideation part here today, not the entire part of starting from empathizing and defining the problem, ideating, prototyping, test, but rather just when you ideate, you're going to go from mild to wild. And so at that point, it's really about creating lots of ideas. It's a very divergent process of and letting yourself be free to create lots of ideas, I think is very important there. And then you also had the experience of clustering. Say, hey, we as a team created all these ideas. What are common? What are some themes? And then you had a chance to quickly converge by using the voting method. Now there's, of course, if you had more time, you could do some more iterations, other things, but that's a nice way to quickly take all of your different views and converge on a single idea or a set of ideas through voting. So you can keep that in mind as well. And lastly, there really is a difference between doing this all together, co-located in a room versus doing it online like this on Zoom and using Miro. There are pros and cons for both. One benefit of doing this online method is that you are not limited by where you're located, so you can work with people from all over. But I think clearly for such intense activities, it is really beneficial to be together, and that's perhaps some of the experience of how things kind of maybe worked a little bit slow in the beginning. You felt a little bit rushed. That's natural for this kind of an online setting. So just keep that in mind. But overall, great job. I hope you've learned some of the concepts, and then we're able to, through this experiential learning, understand how to make those real for you, and then to internalize it for yourself. So with that, I want to say thank you, wish you the best, and hand it back to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Dr. Han. I personally also learned a lot, and I hope all our champions today also experience something new and something that you find interesting, like thinking about, oh, you can ideate this way. I don't have to be frustrated. I can be free and write down the ideas. I think all your comments and feedback that were so helpful, like for all of us. Thank you so much. Now, before we conclude, I would like to really extend our gratitude to all our speaker and facilitators. Dr. Han, thank you so much. And thank you again, Jenny, Jeannie, Jane, and Sunny. Really appreciate it for your valuable contribution today. And also thank you all so much, champions, for engaging in all past three workshops that we have organized for you. And I hope you also find all of these very meaningful and useful at the same time. So for the next 2 weeks, we are going to have the semifinals and finals. I'm sure you're all putting your efforts together to be prepared for our presentation that's coming up next week. Next week, we will be having esteemed judges from across institutions, corporates, and universities to evaluate the one that you have developed over the weeks. I'm sure you have already incorporated the feedback that you have received from our first workshop. And also, I hope you were inspired through the next workshops that we have carried out last week as well as this week. So we are looking forward to look at how you have improved and for you to showcase your ideas in the best way possible. As we have mentioned in the beginning of the Champions program, the way you present, we try not to limit you. So whether you use a presentation, a video, or any other virtual tools you would like to use, feel free to apply them as you deliver a short presentation. More instruction specifics will be delivered to you through email. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, that concludes our workshop today. Thank you all so much again, for joining us, and I will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Good luck, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.